Rap. So, hey, that is a gift. The words that come out of her mouth are fabulous. So, speaking of words, the definitions. So, let's look at some of the definitions. Definitions are incredibly important. You want to win legal arguments, put your definitions in your legal documents. Because otherwise, they'll say it means something else. Okay? He who creates it defines it. I want you to know that right off the bat. When you do a legal document and you put, something like this, 18th District Court, and if that is the top of your document, who owns it? Who owns your document? That's right, the 18th District Court, because you've made them the creator. Now, every page has a debit and a creditor side. Understand that right off the bat. Every page has a debit and a credit side. It's a balance sheet. Well, what is a court? A bank. What is a judge? What is a bank in the business of doing? Creating securities and nothing else. That's their corporate charter. A bank is in the business of creating a security and nothing else. Period. From the desk of David Lester Stray, however I write my name, address, phone number. That all goes right up there on the creditor side of the document at the top of the page. And you can do it in a little bit smaller typeface unless you're in federal court. Don't do it in a smaller typeface in federal court. Then the name of the court. Okay, that's going to make a big difference when you start becoming the creator of your documents. I put a lot of times created by. I'm starting to let them get away with less and less. This one says, and this is one I just sent off to the court last week, from the desk of the Honorable King David Lester Stray. The Son of the Most High God, the King of Kings, Yahweh, created as a flesh and blood soul possessing being, known on this earth as David Lester Stray, private business address of 203 South, and I put my address. Okay? And that's what they're going to get from now on. See, it's very, very important. Let's look at the definition of a person. In 26 USC section 6671B and 26 USC section 7343, make the United States Code your friend. Is it the most important written law? Not even close. Not even close. The United States Code really isn't law. What did I say it was just now? Code. What does the federal government do if the federal government comes to your house and arrests you? What are they filing charges under? The United States Code. So if you don't know it, you don't know the fact that it is written for you to hold them accountable. not them to hold you accountable. So it's very important. It is not law. It is code. And it applies to anyone that works for that corporation. It doesn't apply to anyone who doesn't work for that corporation. Now, how do they make you part of that corporation? Through your words, your choice, the consent of the governed to be a part of that corporation. How did you consent? See, this is what you always got to think about. If they're coming after me and they've got me on something and they're continuing to prosecute, how did they get my okay? How did they get my consent? How did they get my agreement? There's a million different ways, but it's through your words. Everything is about words and definitions. Like person. What is 26? James Version, you're going to get one or two little words out of there that I did not say. Okay, and if you looked at the NIV, you're really screwed up. On and on and on. It depends on the Bible you look at and what you know is right and wrong. That's why I'd never say that I'm quoting the Bible. Because which Bible? You see? And then I get people online that go, oh, David misquoted the Bible. They haven't read anywhere near as many Bibles as I've read. Well, let's go back in time a little bit. You got the King James Version, 1611. You got the Geneva Bible in 1590. You've got the Greek Orthodox Bible. You got the Hebrew Bible. You got the Geese Bible. You got the Phoenician Bible. You got... Well, what are they? They're the books written in different languages, the history. A Bible is just a history book of what took place and revealed through God and prophets.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Okay. What did God write the Ten Commandments with?
His finger.
His finger. What did he write it on?
Tablet.
What kind of stone? A sapphire stone in blue. Why? Virtually unbreakable. But what did they do with it?
He broke it.
And what did they do with it after that?
And rewrote it.
They put it in the Ark of the Covenant. And where'd the Ark of the Covenant go?
Asset protection,
exactly where it is.
Nevis or Cook Islands.
Nope. Nope. The governments have been looking for it for years and years and years. Nope. All right. Okay, listen to the definition of a person. All of whom are officers or employees of a federal corporation and not natural beings. I'll read it again. Person, all of whom are officers or employees of federal corporations and not natural beings. That's why Babylon was a sin. Babylon was the first incorporated city in the world. All federal corporations. All corporations are federal. You start a corporation, you go register with the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State's office is registered under the state of, which is registered under the federal of, which is registered under the White House Office Inc., which is registered under the District of Columbia, which is registered under the City of London, which is registered under the Crown Inc., which is registered under the Vatican. Pope Benedict, right at the end, he dissolved the Vatican's relationship with any corporation in the world. Dissolved them. So what happened? The Crown picked it up. They're the next in line. The Crown was dissolved June the 1st of 2019. It went to the City of London. The City of London was dissolved when? Right at the end of President Trump's term. They announced it on the news. Then who did it revert to? The District of Columbia. No more worrying about the Queen or the Vatican or the City of London or the Crown. All you got to do is worry about the District of Columbia right now. And the District of Columbia holds all corporations in the world under the military law arm. Understand that. Okay? Individual, 26 CFR, section 1.1441-1C3. Got that? Individual, which is defined as an alien or a non-resident alien. What is an American state national? In the federal government, we are non-resident aliens. We're non-residents. That term resident is a bad one. How many times you check mark boxes? I'm a resident. I live on residential property. That's a bad word. See, you didn't know the English language. It's not your fault. Learn it and move on. Correct it. Correct your error. All right? Let's look at the word taxpayer. 26 U.S.C. section 7701 A14 and 26 U.S.C. section 1313 is defined as, this is a person engaged in the trade, business, franchise, and therefore a public office within the U.S. government. Hey, I've sued the IRS 95 times, and I win every time. Because I don't well, I'd never have to pay taxes. That's how much I get. And some years I've made over $1 million a year. So your tax liability is pretty high. So that's how much I got. Okay. I'm about to. Taxpayer. This is a person. Well, first of all, I don't meet the definition of a person. I've already read to you what that definition is, right? I don't meet the definition of a taxpayer. And I don't hold public office. They've got to prove that. They can't prove it. because I've done this and this and this and this and this and this and this. See, this is how you beat them. You beat them at their own game with their own definitions out of their own codes. And it's simple, because they got to follow that crap. I don't. A taxpayer is a person engaged in trade, business, or franchise, and therefore a public office within the U.S. government. One of about 1,000. First time I ever got sued by the IRS was 1991. And I beat them within about, well, my last time I bought it, I beat them within an hour and 56 minutes. And I recorded every minute of it. And it was fun. I had a good time. I literally stood in front of a 3-panel auditors, 3 auditors. Just like I was in a courtroom, walked up to a podium, had to present everything in front of 3 judges. Tax court. An hour and 56 minutes. They said, we have 24 hours to give you your decision. Are you finished? I said, yes. I leave. As I'm walking out the door, they said, we'll call you within 24 hours. Exactly 23 hours and 50 minutes later, my phone rang. They said, David, your balance is now 0. I said, give that to me in writing. I'll be over there in 20 minutes to pick up the sheet. It's that easy. My balance went to 0. All right. Yeah. Citizen, 26 CFR, section 1.1-1C, is defined as an artificial entity with a domicile in the District of Columbia. Lots of court cases that show that too, guys. Here's one right here, U.S. versus Slater. And this is an IRS case, by the way. And it says, unless the defendant can prove he is not a citizen of the United States, it's written in a negative. The IRS has the right to inquire and determine a tax liability. So it's written in the negative. That really meant, if you want to read it in the positive, it really meant if the defendant can prove he is not a citizen of the United States, the IRS does not have the right to determine a tax liability. See? But the way they write it's in the negative, which they usually do. It says, there are then, under our Republican form of government, 2 classes of citizens. It says it right there. All right, let's go back to this. Resident. 26 U.S.C. section 7701B1A is defined as an artificial entity that is an alien with a domicile in the District of Columbia. Gosh, did you know that? Did you know that if you use your zip code, mailing a letter to your grandma, that you live in Washington, D.C. as a resident? That's where you're domiciled? And you just reside in Florida temporarily to do business. I always bracket the zip codes. Every time you use them, and you have just given your consent to be ruled upon. Did you hear what I said? If you use your zip code the way they want you to use your zip code, you have given your consent to be ruled upon. Bracket it, write in zip exempt. There's all kinds of things within the code that you can do. I want you to look this up on Google, okay? Type in all caps, state abbreviations, Texas, Florida, so on, okay? Now, Tex. Shouldn't have used Florida. Should have used Oregon because I forget what Florida was. Huh? Oh yeah, that's right. You're right. It is. Look it up on Google. There's two separate definitions depending on whether it's a state of corporation or the actual geographical area of the state, the land. It's a different jurisdiction. Let's look at that. Juris. What does juris mean? Right? Law. Diction. You look words up in a words. So what does jurisdiction mean? Right law words. We do not know the English language. Some idiot prosecutor will stand up there and say, yeah, the state has jurisdiction. The county has jurisdiction. The city has jurisdiction. Hold on there a minute, Your Honor. I must misunderstand the word jurisdiction because juris means right law, diction means words. That means the words I use determine the juris in which I am operating under. What the prosecutor really meant to say was the city has venue. Am I right or wrong, Your Honor? Better clarify that stuff. All right. Now here's where it gets good. Let's go back to resident for a minute. I'm going to read you the whole thing instead of just half. A resident is defined as an artificial entity that is an alien with a domicile in the District of Columbia and no part of any state of the Union. Oh, what did I just say? A resident is defined as an artificial entity that is an alien with a domicile in the District of Columbia. Look in 26 U.S.C. section 7701, A9 and A10, and no part of any state of the Union. What is an employee? Gosh, the IRS has a tough time. If you don't meet the definition of a person, you don't meet the definition of a taxpayer, you don't meet the definition of resident, you don't meet the definition of an employee, and your job, they don't meet the definition of a withholding agent, which means they're stealing money out of your paycheck. Things start to get really fun. An employee. In Title V, USC Section 2105, and 26 USC Section 3401C, and 26 of the CFR Section 31.3401C1 is defined as a U.S. person, which is defined in 26 USC Section 7701A30, where the U period S period means the government and not a geographical place. Only employees work for the government. Do you work for the government? You work for a corporation? You work for Burger King. You work for Burger King and you work for a corporation, and a corporation of Burger King without franchise being located in that state, registered with the Secretary of State under the corporation laws of that state, and that's the state of Florida, which is registered under the White House Office Inc., which is registered under the District of Columbia. Now all of a sudden you are what? There There you go. So all you have to do is say, well, then where's my government car and my government paycheck? And it's 401k. And do I receive all the benefits that any other government employees, or are you discriminated against me? I'll tell you about a court case that happened in Oregon, in the area that I came from. It was an older lady. She's driving into town. She's about a half a mile from town, from a gas station, and she runs out of gas. She pulls her car over the side of the road. She decides to walk into town. She leaves her car sitting there. The police came along, found an abandoned car, called the tow truck, had it towed. She comes back, gets a ride back from someone with a can of gas, and her car is gone. She has them take her back into town. She starts making inquiries, calls the police, thinking her car's been stolen off the side of the highway. Found out the police had impounded it. Seriously, right? Okay, they do stupid shit. Anyway, aside from that, she ends up in this lawsuit because they're charging her a whole bunch of money for towing fees, impound fees, all that kind of stuff. She doesn't have it. She's living on Social Security. So she decides it's the principle of the thing. She sells a bunch of her household items and she pays an attorney with the money and sues the police department. And the police department says it ain't us. It's the Department of Motor Vehicle, the state of Oregon's policies that we have to enforce. We're just the enforcement guys, so they were passing the buck. So the judge says, well, then you need to amend your suit and change who the defendant is. So the attorney changes it to the state of Oregon. Now this is where it got interesting, right here. She had a hearing, and the state was coming back saying, well, that's policy. No office were broken, that's policy, pay the money. And she goes, oh, no, that ain't good enough. We're going to appeal. So in the appeal is when it got really interesting. In the appeal, she says, I registered my automobile with the state's Department of Motor Vehicles, and they hold the superior title. So it's the state's vehicle, and the state's responsible. I have a conditional lease, and now you're broken your contract. And here's a bill for every repair that's ever been made, every tire that's ever been put on, every oil change, everything. And I want wages for the time I've had to drive that thing around. And she won her case. Because she proved the state had the superior title. Understand, she forced the lawyer to do it the way she wanted. Okay? And he thought it'd be fun. What's that? I don't know about that. Maybe. Understand, definitions are incredibly, incredibly important in everything that we do. If we don't know the language, we never win. This is important, guys. Thank you for whoever brought that up to my attention. All right. Parts of a lawful contract. This is something I just do because it's so important. I'm going to go through it fairly fast. You can get this on our Telegram channels. You can get it on the websites. You can get it by ordering a drive. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to acquire this now. It's out there. It's there for free. It's in the books. If you order it, it's something you should use to teach everyone. It's that important. Teach your kids, your grandkids. That's what we're here for. We're here to learn so we can pass the information on. All right? Parts of a lawful contract. Number one, how many parts are there to a contract? Lawyers like to say there's 3. They used to say there was 4. Now they say there's 3. What's that? There's 8 parts to a contract, and they're very important. The parties to a contract should be competent, being of the age of consent, of sound mind, not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he or she is subject. A flaw in capacity may be due to minority, lunacy, idiocracy, drunkenness, or dissimilarity of kind. The parties should be of the same kind, being either legal fiction actors or natural living men and women. Allowing more than 2 parties is okay, but never a mixture of these kinds and their respective jurisdictions. In other words, a man can only contract with a man. But you have to act as a person to contract with a corporation. Exactly right. This is how you get out of most of them, if you're smart. Okay? Number 2, free and genuine consent. The consent of the parties to the agreement must be free and genuine. The consent of the parties should not be obtained by misrepresentation, fraud, undue influence, coercion, or mistake. I love that word mistake sometimes. If you add the word mutual to it, mutual mistake, well, avoids everything as if it never were. So if a husband and wife get married, they decide 5 years from now they don't belong together, and that happens, they just don't agree, it just doesn't work out, and they agree that it was a mutual mistake. If they write those words in their annulment, then the state can't deny the annulment because a mutual mistake is as if the contract never existed. So that's how important those words are. Okay? If the consent is obtained by any of these means, then the contract is not valid or legally or lawfully enforceable. Full disclosure. When negotiating a contract, full disclosure is a step of providing all material information or telling the whole truth about any matter which may influence the decision-making of the other party or parties before they decide to enter into a contract. If either party fails to make full disclosure, the contract is null and void. Oh, this is part of the birth certificate thing right there. If a court in a family court is holding your children or something like that, or holding you to a family courts are only magistrate courts, they're administrative courts. So knowing that helps, because administrative courts is supposed to follow certain protocol, policies and doctrines. And the doctrine that they follow is called the doctrine of parens patriae and the doctrine of in loco parentis. Okay, parens patriae means the state is the parent. In loco parentis means the parent is the conditional caretaker. Okay? And that's the doctrine they go on. So they believe the state owns the children. And why do they believe that? Because a mother, 9 months pregnant, walks into a foundling hospital. The baby comes out of the water, is tugged through the birth canal, is docked at the dock by the dock tender where a bill of lading is received. The bill of lading is the birth certificate. The mother signs off as an informant. The legal definition of the word informant is someone who gives someone else up to another, thereby giving title and equity of the child to the state as its vessel. the ship, on the citizenship registrar through the Department of Human Resources. See? You see how ugly this really gets? Not until after they killed off the baby by taking its soul and its blood, and then sent it home with the tug out to sea where it's presumed dead and lost at sea until it should return after 7 years and claim its minor estate. Ta-da. The words are so clear and so important if you have the knowledge that you can recognize them. You know how many years I carried around a copy of my birth certificate without having the knowledge to recognize the word informant on there and what it meant? Many, many, many years. And there it was, right there in plain sight. They place everything in plain sight, and we don't see it because we don't have the knowledge in order to have the recognition. And it's that simple. Life is literally that simple. This is why the Bible says, for the lack of knowledge, my people will be destroyed.
They
Used to put these seminars on for free at my own expense. It's cost thousands of dollars to rent this building, do all this, all the travel expenses, everything. And I used to pay for it all, let the people come, and I'd get little tiny groups that never did anything with the information. When we started charging and people had a vested interest in their own education, then a lot of them, of a higher percentage, took that information and went and did something good with it. That's the difference. And that made the seminars grow and grow and grow. Our last seminar in Gaylord had over 1,000 people at the Gaylord, Texas Resort. Okay? Lots, if you set them up at the window. See, the way law works is all about notice. You're sitting in a hearing, the judge is talking, and he's saying things, and he's not really telling you what's happening or what's going on. So you got to question the judge on the record. Your Honor, on the record, are you operating under the doctrine of parens patriae, yes or no? Well, no, you just stuck him in a corner where he's got to answer. And if he kind of refuses to answer, which they do a lot, now the rule of three comes in. Yes or no, Your Honor? Your Honor, would you just answer the question, are you operating under the doctrine of parens patriae, yes or no? See, now I've asked him 3 times, he has to answer. The rule of 3 applies in everything. They'll ask you things 3 times. I was in a courtroom one time, and he says, I really think you should have an attorney. Would you like a public attorney? We'll assign one to you. No, right? I highly recommend you take the public defender. If you don't take the public defender, I'm going to call in the U.S. Marshals right now, and I'm going to sentence you to the maximum sentence. See, you fucked up. No. What you needed to say was, hell no, Your Honor. You know what he would have did at that point? He would have said, okay, you're free to go. He was just testing you, and you caved under the pressure. I'm serious. I've been in a courtroom where they did that very thing. Yes, you failed to give an answer, Your Honor. In that case, I recommend that you dismiss this case with prejudice and we're done here. You could have been done already. Before I go into court, I always write the dismissal and the order. And I write the order as if the judge has already written it. And I hand it to her. Sign it. Okay, where was I? Valuable consideration. The consideration is something of value possessed by the parties is brought to the contract table. This something of value is bargained for and given in exchange for a promise or a performance. The parties must each receive a benefit and each suffer a detriment to be enforceable. A contract must have valuable consideration. A contract is unenforceable if it has insufficient or unequal consideration without an agreement. Number 5, certainty of terms. The terms and conditions of the contract must be fully disclosed and agreed upon and must be certain and fixed. Any subsequent variation of the terms must be agreed. Number 6 is a meeting of the minds. A meeting of the minds is a consensus ad item. You know, if you put a little Latin in your cases, it helps a lot. Okay? A meeting of the minds is a consensus ad item that occurs between the parties when they recognize each other, understand their mutual obligations, and agree. A meeting of the minds occurs between living men and women in lawful matters in common law jurisdiction and between legal fiction actors in legal matters, which is admiralty maritime jurisdiction. A contract must either be lawful or legal. If one party to a contract makes a signature as an accommodation party to a legal fiction person, while the other party makes an autograph for a living man or woman, the parties are of unequal kinds and the contract is null and void, and that's a place where a lot of patriots mess up. They want to get something done, they have to be in the right juris. You cannot avoid jurisdictions. And God commanded you to take dominion over all 3. He never said jump out of the water onto the land with both feet and never go back. He didn't say go directly into the air into trust law and never go back. He said take dominion over all 3. Now, most of the time you want to operate on the land or in trust. Once you're very, very knowledgeable, in order to defend yourself, you want to be in trust almost all the time. Because the air is above the land, which is above the water. The air is the highest form of law. To be a fiduciary for the benefit of a beneficiary is the highest position you can obtain. That's what God was. A lot of these groups out there just want to jump onto the land. And I guarantee if you do that, the wave will come crashing down upon you and you'll drown because you'll be out of air. See what I'm saying? Be careful. Number 7, autographs or signatures. Lawful written contracts between legal men and women must carry the wedding autographs of the parties, comprising a living identification, such as a thumbprint. When you're operating in the jurisdiction of the land, your color is red. It represents the blood of Christ. Your thumbprint should be on there in red. If you want to remain in that jurisdiction, you autograph in red. Now here's the thing about this. So here's your piece of paper. If you're in the jurisdiction of the trust, you sign in the center of the page in purple. If you're in the jurisdiction of the land, you sign on this side of the paper in red. And you autograph in red. If I'm in trust, I sign in purple and I put my seal. is in blue on this side. What does evil do? Put up a mirror. What's that look like in a mirror? That's right. That's why you always should have 4 colors of ink. Black is dead, red is living, it's blood, purple is air, royalty, air. God says, I am the King of kings. He never said I'm the king of slaves. We all want to be like God, kings, with God being the King of kings. That's the jurisdiction in the air. That's why we operate with purple, royalty. I use a gold seal. Gold seal, purple signature. And once you obtain your Sesta QV trust, you should always sign in gold. In purple, with the gold seal in the center of the paper. Always. Otherwise, you're misrepresenting your trust. And what is your trust? It is the incontestable, guaranteed, full faith and credit of the United States government. Start misrepresenting your trust and see what happens to you. Just go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. It's very important. And my favorite, number 8, privity of contract. Privity of contract. What does that mean? It means a contract exists only between the parties, that no third party can obtain rights contained within a contract or buy or sell a contract without the express, what does the word express mean? Written. The word express means written. Without the express permission of all parties. So, sure. So your phone rings. You answer the phone. Hello, is this Mr. David Strait? Yes, it is. How can I help you? Hi, this is Bob from Professional Credit Services. I just wanted to call and let you know that we have acquired your debt over at St. Charles Medical Center for $2,417.50. How would you like to arrange payments today? Bob, you said your name was Bob, right? Yeah. Okay, Bob. First of all, I don't ever remember receiving from a corporation called Professional Credit Services a letter in the mail asking for my permission to purchase my contract with St. Charles Medical Center. Do you have permission from me with my signature to get involved in that contract? Well, no, but we purchased your contract, and you owe us $2,410.15 or whatever the hell I said earlier. Got to make this fun, right? Anyway, Bob, I just wanted to let you know there's no privity of contract. I want to thank you for this gift at this time. I really needed it. As you know, I was in the hospital, and I've been unable to pay my bill because I've been out of work. I'm planning on going back to work and paying my bill to the hospital, but since you've already purchased it, I want to thank you for this gift at this time. Thank you very much. Have a happy holiday. Just exactly like it sounds. Privity. All right. Rescission. R-E-S-C. Why? Look up the word rescission, spelled different ways.
Yeah.
There's two different spellings for the word rescission, and they mean two different things. Rescission. That is the one you want to use, the spelling you want to use. Oh, you go out here, you drive on the street, you get her up to a little speed, a cop puts on through his cruiser, he puts on some blue lights calling you into Admiralty, and he's manufacturing some evidence in order to collect a fee. That's all he's doing, creating a cause of action to manufacture evidence to collect a fee on behalf of the city. He writes you a ticket. He makes you sign a ticket. They don't all do that anymore, but let's just say for this instance they do. Your new name is, thank you. Your new name at the bottom of the ticket is under, that's my first name, duress. And that's how I sign my name. My first name is Under. My last name is Duress. Nice to meet you. And that's how I signed the ticket. He didn't ever look at it anyway. He just tears it off, hands it to you, see you in court. And within 72 hours, 72:30, 15:10, Judgment Day. Write that in lipstick on your bathroom mirror until you're haunted by it. That's what I did. Wrote my wife's lipstick on the bathroom mirror until I was saying it in my sleep. 72:30, 52, Judgment Day. Why? Because that's banking law. And all courts are, all judges are, that's banking law. Everyone has a 72-hour right of rescission. Take the ticket, red Sharpie and 45-degree angle, write rescission across the ticket. I like to add a few things like you're offered a contract that's not accepted. Right? You can put Title 18, Section 241 and 242 on there if you like. That kind of scares the crap out of them if they actually look it up and read it. Most of them don't. Remember, most of them are never argue with a guy, a low IQ bullet sponge on the side of the road with a gun. That ain't the place to argue. Stop it. People get hurt when you argue with those people. They're mainly ex-Army. No Army guys in here? Okay. They follow orders. That's all they do. They're trained by the county attorneys usually, or the city attorney, to follow policy. It says policy right on their uniform, and it says it right on their car. Once you realize the word police means policy, you'll be better off. Doesn't say law enforcement. Doesn't have a red light on the top anymore. Understand, they were law enforcement when they had the red light. They're not law enforcement anymore. They're policy enforcement officers. Go ahead. In the 72 hours, do you have to get it back to the police station or just in the mail? You don't send it to the police station at all anyway. They're done with it at that point. You send it to the court address that's on it, and if you send it via something provable, a proof of service, like registered mail, then it's the mail. I don't trust the mail. Okay, I literally had a gal on her way home from work, on the phone with me. She gets pulled over. She gets a ticket. On her way home is the courthouse that was listed on the ticket. She drove by the courthouse while I'm talking to her on the phone. She walks in, she hands it to the court clerk, and the court clerk looks at the time and date and the word rescission written across it, walked over to the shredder and dropped it in. And her ticket was dismissed right there before it even got started. And then she went over and she made notes. Very, very interesting deal. So, this is banking law. You apply for a credit card. It comes in the mail. It says activate here, call this number, or go to this website, or whatever it does, right? But it comes with a terms and conditions sheet, the full terms and conditions, where the application online doesn't always have the full terms and conditions. Okay? So you get the terms and conditions sheet in the mail, and you read the terms and conditions, and if you decide you don't want it, you can rescission it, send it back to them within 72 hours. And the whole contract is just void and it goes away. Now, I'll get to you in just a second. So, let's say you do want it. You're willing to accept the terms and conditions. You activate the card, you go out and you buy some gas, you go to the grocery store, you do the different things, and you spend some money. Let's say you spend $1,000 into a month. Then you get an invoice in the mail, your first bill, and it says your balance is $1,000, you just need to send us $25 a month. They like that, because if you keep the balance on there, then they charge you interest. If you paid off the whole $1,000, no interest is charged usually, right? But they want to earn money, so they want you to pay the minimum and drag it on for 27.3 years or longer. See, that's what they like. So you got 30 days to pay that invoice. Now, if you're like most Americans who procrastinate, you're busy, your lives are busy, you take that bill and you stick it under a magnet on your refrigerator. And nobody looks on the outside of the fridge, we just look on the inside. And so you forget about it and you procrastinate. There it is hanging there the whole time, but you meant to pay it, you meant to do the right thing, but you didn't. So all of a sudden you go to your mailbox, you get another mail, and it says, hey, you're past due. This is your second notice. You got 15 days to make your payment. Then your grace period's over. It's your second notice, 15-day notice. Most people, if you procrastinate, you put it right on the top of the old one under the magnet, and you just look on the inside of the refrigerator, not the outside. You meant to do it a day or two from now, but your life's busy, so you forget. So you get something in the mail that says, we're canceling your credit card, you owe the full balance, you got 10 days in which to cure. Don't worry about it. 10 days in which to cure, or we're taking you to collections. It's usually a collection letter, right? 10 days. You forget about it, they can attach your wages, they can file a lien, they can do all manner of collection activity after that point because you acquiesced. You didn't answer, you acquiesced to the contract. So then they take you to court. That's banking law. They're just following administrative procedure in banking law. 72-30-15-10 Judgment Day.
Oh,
Do you know we got to do the same thing to them when we're dealing with their bank? Here's where people screw up. You didn't put them on notice. You didn't give 30 days in which to act. You didn't send them a second notice, give them another 15. You didn't send them a third notice, give them 10. Judgment Day comes around, and you don't know what to do with it. So you lose. Once you know what to do with it, once you follow it and you know what to do with it and set them up at the window, let me ask you a question. You go to court, You got a court case between the two of you. You lose. The judge writes an order. What do? Tell me what you would do. I'm going to put you on the spot. You have to pay, right? Well, wait a minute. Did you know the judge's order isn't any good for at least 30 days and then it cures and then it's good? No, most people go home and cry because they lost their case. You know what I do? I void the judge's order. I find a way to void it out. Make him rerule it. Make him modify it. Appeal. That's what the word appeal. That's why you can appeal. The minute a judge rules, you stand up in court and you say, appeal, Your Honor. And you write an appeal and you walk down to the clerk's office and you say, put this on my case. I'm appealing the judge's order. Maybe it lacked due process. Go ahead. If they didn't file the findings, there are none. They went down to the county recorder's office where the record of deeds are. The judge did. What kind of case are you talking about? Oh, well, yeah, that's a deeds record case. Well, absolutely right. You better pay damn close attention to them because they'll move, modify, change. You should see what they've done in Bonnie's case. They issued the warrant for her the day after her arrest. It was returned by the sheriff's department on the 25th, which was 15 days after her arrest. I complained that there was no warrant. I put in a document in the court case. There was no warrant. They lacked due process. They put those on the docket. All of a sudden, they removed them off the docket. Like there was no warrant at all. You know what they did do? They went back under an old warrant that expired within 30 days, was never served to her, and it had expired. And they changed the 3-0. Watch this. I'm running out of room here pretty soon. I need an eraser guy. They changed the 3-0 by doing this right here. I took a 3-0 and I changed it to 180 by putting a 1 in front of it and closing the 3. And now the warrant that was issued back in January, and she was arrested April 10th, all of a sudden was a good warrant now. So they've removed the one they actually issued on the 11th, the day after arrest, because we challenged them that they didn't have one. So they created one the day after. The sheriff returned it to the back of the court on the 25th, because the court has to hand it to the sheriff. The sheriff returns it on the 25th, saying she was arrested. They put it on the docket that was the warrant. I complained. They removed it off the docket. Then they went back under an old warrant that had never been served back in January, which expired after 30 days, changed it to 180, called it good, thereby committing a felony. That is just one little thing out of hundreds that I'm calling out. They committed hundreds of offenses on Bonnie. She committed no crime. A police officer will commit dozens of felonies on the side of a road to get you on a traffic ticket misdemeanor. Huh? Everything but that top's okay. So, rescission of a contract, to abrogate, annul, avoid, cancel, to cancel a contract, particularly nullifying a contract by an act of a party. The right of rescission is a right to cancel or rescind a contract upon the occurrence of any default of any contracting party. To declare a contract void in its inception and to put an end to it as if though it never was. Okay, and you can find that in Russell versus Stevens, which is a state of Washington case. You can find it in Abdullah Inc. versus Martin. That's a Minnesota case. You can find it all over the place. Yes, but listen to what it says right here. It necessarily involves a repudiation of the contract and a refusal of the moving party to be further bound by it. I'm kind of the king of stamps. I used to have hundreds of them. I learned it from my grandma. My grandma was like this bookkeeper accountant for years and years and years back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s during her career, and she stamped everything, even letters to her grandson. So I like to narrow it down to a few. So I created a few stamps: received, rescission, acceptance, and apostille. And that's it. So I'm going to read you my rescission one. Rescission for the cause of fraud and swindle, for acting in dishonor and for practicing and pretending under the color of law. And it's date, time, AM, PM, David Lester Street, the vessel, by a line that says beneficiary and or executor with a place for my seal. I sign it, I seal it, I send it. Done. Now, borrow this chair for a minute. The king is busy. He sits upon his throne. He's running his kingdom. Everything that comes to the king through the mail or whatever is a presentment. You understand? Things get presented to the king. I want you to know where I'm going with this. I get a bill in the mail, it's a presentment. I get a letter from the court in the mail, it's a presentment. I get served with a summons, it's a presentment. I don't care what it is. It's a presentment to me. The king only has a few options. He can accept it. He can rescission it. He can apostille it and authorize it for a foreign government. Right? And he can receive it. Now what happens if the king went to Hawaii for a month and a summons to appear came in the mail the day after he left? Doesn't matter. The letters are dated, right? The letters are dated. That's the date the court is going by. The date that they created, the date that they put on their presentment. Unless, here's the key, guys, unless the king, when he comes back, stamps it received and changes the date and time. Now that he's acknowledged the receipt of it with a proper date and time and his proper credentials with his seal, now what did the king just do? He restarted the clock. Do you see how important that can be? It's incredibly important. It's one of the things we as a people need to learn to combat the problems that they're coming after us with. I'm teaching you how you can restart the clock. I'm teaching you that if a judge makes an order, you still got 30 days. The order's not final for 30 days. You know, countries sign a treaty and they're not final for 90 days? It's 90 days later the treaty goes into effect. Look at our UN treaty that ended World War II. It was signed on September 7th, 1945. When did it go into effect? December 7th, 1945. 4-year anniversary of Pearl Harbor. Japanese never wanted to attack America. Every general wrote a letter. See, they had a UN meeting, and all of our enemies and all of our allies were United Nations nations. All of them. Japan said it'd be suicide to attack America. That there's a gun behind every blade of grass. That's what one general said. Another one said, if we attack America, we might as well be running a suicide mission. So they named their pilots kamikaze pilots and trained them that it was the end. On and on and on. All their generals wrote letters not wanting to attack America. Why'd they attack America? They drew the short straw. Somebody had to bring us into the war. And the UN picked Japan to do it, knowing it may be total annihilation of their country and their people. And they did it anyway. It wasn't the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima that ended the war. We were still at war with other nations. That just made Japan surrender and back out. And we were still at war. It was the signing of the United Nations Treaty that ended the war. America didn't win that war. We agreed to stop that war. And every war since has been a United Nations authorized conflict. Not one war since has been a war declared by our Congress. We didn't declare war on any other country without getting permission of the United Nations first. You know what that meant? That meant that we all went to war. Every generation since went to war under false pretenses, under politics. What does the word politic mean? Poly means many. Tick? Well, that's a blood-sucking parasite. I'm not kidding you. It means many blood-sucking parasites. Yeah. No. All right, I'm going to answer that question like I answered this question a million times in a million different subjects. The answer is, you can do it now. The difference is, I can defend it, you can't. That doesn't mean it won't work sometimes. That's the difference. People always ask me, David, can I do that if I'm a U.S. citizen still? I say, sure, but you can't defend it. Yeah, you gotta be a squire before you're a knight, before you're a king. You gotta crawl before you walk, before you run. It's the same thing. Okay, it's just a matter of knowledge of working your way up and doing the right thing. And too many people take it in their own hands and they start doing crap before they're ready. I'll give you an example. There's a lady that gave rewarded me in front of more than 300 people in one of the most beautiful venues I've ever given a seminar in, and she was the host. And rewarded me and Bonnie with this beautiful plaque, brass on marble. It was gorgeous. She had to spend a fortune on it. And she gave it to me at the end of that seminar. She left the seminar building, she drove home. And she did not have the MCO on her vehicle, and she had changed her plates and done a few other things. She was pushing the cart up the hill, not doing things in the proper manner and order, and she got in trouble, and her car got impounded on the way home. It cost her $1,100 and some to get it out, on and on and on, and then all of a sudden she started attacking me. Literally the day after, give me an award. Started attacking me. Just because she did the wrong thing. And some people won't admit they did the wrong thing. All right, who's playing with the lies? Okay, that one was an accident. All right. Was it you last time? Okay. Yeah, kind of funny. All right. Here's where we start having some more fun. See if I can get this covered real quick. Yeah, try using some common sense. Until you own your vehicle, if the state owns it, don't screw with their plates. See, right now they're trying to get me on a misdemeanor charge for wrongful or fictitious license plates, misdemeanor A, right? Wrongful or fictitious plates. They think the state of Oregon owns my pickup because that's where it was originally purchased and bought. What they don't know is I've got the records and the proof that the Oregon plates were mailed back to the DMV, that I have the MCO, Manufacturer's Certificate of Origin, and the state of Oregon does not have superior title to my plates. But here's the issue. It's Texas that stopped me. The city of Cleburne. I don't have any contract with the city of Cleburne. I don't have any contract with the Department of Public Safety, which is the DMV in Texas. And I don't have any contract with the state of Texas. I don't have any contract with the county of Johnson. Those are all private for-profit corporations that are required to have a contract with me in order to hold me in effect of their policies. So they don't know this shit yet because it hasn't progressed that far enough. But it's coming, and it's going to be fun for me. And expensive for them. I make good money off police departments. Just getting a traffic ticket, I'll make 10 grand. How many people can say that? On this one? Oh, it's big. I'll make at least $250,000, if not more. And it's not going to be hard for me to prove these things. So it's coming. No, it's okay. That was great. You better. They're their property. You don't, you stole it. Put it in an affidavit and send it to them. They have to. You're transferring it out of commercial use into private. Get an affidavit, right? Give them a copy of the MCO. Stamp the word copy all over it. Do it in black and white so there's no red numbers on it. Put copy on it. Send it to them with the affidavit. With the plates. put it all in a nice, pretty registered mail envelope, serve it upon them. Okay? Now, you've canceled their contract. Come on up, Tony. Have I had you up here yet? Okay, now's a good time.
This right here is a certified copy of my license.
You still got that thing? It's not in the shop anymore? No. I'm teasing him. Thank
Sorry
you for
about
reminding me on that.
This is my Lexus that I have, one of my vehicles. It's MCO. This is a copy of. It's an MSO, Statement of Origin. So I show the front and the back. It hasn't been signed. You never want to sign it, of course, because you terminate the contract. You terminate this piece of paper. You abandon property is what they call it. Or they also stamp surrendered on it as well. So this is what it looks like. And then I got my copy down here. It's a certified copy. It's a stamp that I made. It has all three juruses because it has blue, red, and blue and red together make purple. And I made that myself, which stamps the date.
This is the one on my pickup that I was in when they stopped me. So they get a copy of this. The original's in my safe. See? And I carry a copy just like this in the vehicle. I told the police officer, I set him up at the window. I said, I don't have to have a commercial plate. I'm not operating in commerce. I'm not hauling passengers for hire. I'm not following the Texas Transportation Code. Texas Transportation Code 502.003 says a subdivision can't license a non-commercial vehicle. I said court cases of Brooks versus State, Hassel versus State, Callis versus State all say that there's no such thing known to Texas law as a driver's license, and I have the MCO to my vehicle. He goes, what's an MCO? I said, a failure to train is a cause of action in federal court, and obviously you have had a failure to train. So I realize it's not your fault, because if you don't know what an MCO is, you don't know what a superior title is. Because I own this vehicle. I have the superior title. No state holds superior title over this vehicle like they do yours at home. A city of, a county of, a state of, a private for-profit corporation acting and pretending to be government under color of law. That's right. Many ticks, many parasites. Many parasites playing politics under policy. The very word policy means many rules. Okay? It's kind of fun when you know the English language a little bit. I don't even know it well enough. I'm still learning. We got guys like Dr. Dan up in the Pacific, or up in the Northeast. Got a doctorate degree from Oxford. Looks every word up. That guy can write. Whoa. You went to kindergarten through 12th grade, right? 13 years of school and graduated. Graduated from high school, right? Probably have some college. Do you? Okay, so you put a lot of time and effort to learning nothing. You come to one of these seminars and try and want it all right now. That's instant gratification. You won't get it, honey. You're not going to get a list all compiled in one place ever. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take interest. You're going to have to form your own education, to start doing your own research, learn from all this from me, and then don't take my word for it. I can prove every damn thing I say, but just go learn it for yourself. Go try and disprove me. I'll tell you what the reason I came up with a thumb drive anyway. The thumb drive is pretty basic. It's got some basic documents, so you learn how to write a legal document. It's got the steps to follow. It's got the documents you use, like in the Freedom Bundle, to record, to change your status. It's got a seminar on there, so you can play it over and over and over again. You can play it in your car. You can do all kinds of things with it, so you're hearing it over and over and over again. It was really designed by me so that you can take it, hand it to a neighbor and say, hey, go listen to this guy. Give it back to me in a week and tell me what you think. Or use it for your high school kids, your kids. Teach your children. I'll tell you how many wives have converted their husbands who wanted nothing to do with this. I love my mama bears in this country. They stand up more than the men. Okay? One of my next door neighbors, she's a notary. She works for the county. Her husband's an engineer. She says, David, I've been following this for years. How do I get my husband interested? I says, control the TV set. Put this thumb drive in it. You got a flat screen, right? She plugs right in the USB port in the back. I said, start watching it. He picks up the remote to change the channel. You go, I'm watching that. Let me tell you something. That noise I just made right there, that will stop a charging bull. I'll watch my dad stop a bull that was charging him very quickly, and he weighed about 2,200 pounds, and my dad went, ah! That bull put the brakes on, goes, what the hell kind of creature is that? Started looking at him. I've stopped junkyard dogs with that. I've stopped stallions, horses that were trying to fight each other, and I was in the way. Yeah. Educate the buyer a little bit, and they'll probably pay you more money. It's just like a land patent, a piece of property. If I was out looking at property, and I found two pieces of property that I really liked, and one guy told me, hey, this property's land patent, I'm going to buy it because I know what it is. My knowledge gave me the opportunity to recognize it was more value to me. See? And that noise works great with kids. It just shuts them down when they're being bad. All right, you had a question, right? And I ignored the heck out of it. All right, thank you. I would have forgot about it by now, too. Did it?
Is everything that David is teaching only valid if you are an ASN question mark? Oh.
Yeah, you are operated under Title 18, Section 241 and 242. Yeah.
Is everything David is teaching only valid if you are a ASN?
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it right there. Okay, works just fine. Yeah, it's in his Right to Travel book. Okay, it's got Marbury versus Madison on that side. That's a great court case. All right, one of the neat things I did several years ago, and I don't even know if they still got it on their website because I haven't looked. Has anybody looked recently on the Department of Justice's website for the PDF files of Title 241 and 242? Okay, you did a search? Well, under Biden, who knows what the hell they're doing. So, and Blinky, right? Blinky and Biden, what do you got? I can't hear you. If you have an MCO title, do you still have to pay insurance? Thank you so much for asking that question. Let me tell you, I'll go back to that. Let me tell you how important that question just was. All right? I'm going to pick on him for a minute. It's a dark, rainy night. The rain's coming down so hard I can't hardly see through the windshield, like yesterday morning. Man, it was bad. And let's just say it's a dark night and he's dressed in dark clothing, and I come up to a crosswalk and I'm around the corner and I didn't realize he stepped off the curb. I didn't see him, and I ran over the man's foot. What is my responsibility? My responsibility is stop, help him, make sure he's okay, call 911, get an ambulance over to him, and let him know that as soon as you're healed, I want you to know something. Any lost wages, any medical costs, anything that has occurred to you, I'm going to make sure you're repaid that 3 times over. And I'm going to take care of you. And I'm going to help you sue me. We're going to go into partnership right now. Is that agreed upon? And then he and I are going to walk into court together. I'm going to bring in my trust into equity, and I'm going to show the judge, make him a partner, and I'm here to restore this man, and I'm going to give that judge my authorization to take the money out of my trust and restore this man and make him whole. And that's my responsibility. And then he's fine. We're best friends. We shake hands, wish him well, and we depart. You think I needed State Farm? Well, that's a tough one. But you know what State Farm would have did if you had an insurance policy? Only covered his family up to $100,000. You still would have got sued, probably lost your house, probably lost your job, lost everything else you own, because you've got to repair the family now and his estate. State Farm didn't cover that, because you probably had a 100, 300, 100 policy. I know I used to own an insurance company, so did my wife. And that's probably all you have. In fact, the minimum amount of insurance that's required in most states is $40,000 or $50,000 of coverage. That doesn't even cover the Rolls Royce in the parking lot, much less killing somebody. Accidents happen. Our job is to restore them. The Bible says if I run over a sheep with my chariot, I'm to give the man 4 sheep. You understand, right? This is the beauty of being the king and having your trust. What the hell do I need State Farm for? If I don't have enough cash in my safe to cover it, then I just take myself to court with him. We'll both be the plaintiffs. We'll sue my trust. Go ahead. Absolutely. Absolutely. It just came out of the king's coffers. See, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. That's the way we're all supposed to act. What if I could help fund government too? What if I walked in with my fully incontestable, guaranteed $100 million bond and told the judge to pay him his damages and keep 25% for you in the county? All it takes is my what? Do whatever you want. You create the order. You say what the remedy is. If you want a new light there, require the county, your public servant, to go put one in. Here's the cash. Take it out of my trust. Do you realize we have the complete ability? Bonnie alone could fund Johnson County for the next decade, and they refused it. I handed them an offer I gave them a promissory note for $100 million and handed them an offer on the full faith and credit bond of the United States of America. And they refused it. Do you know they committed a felony when they refused it? And the State Department might just send the U.S. Marshals over there and arrest them all by the time I'm done. That's an incontestable, fully guaranteed, full faith and credit of the United States bond that cannot be contested. There's no contest. Do it, Your Honor. Where's the contest? Where is it? It's incontestable. They didn't even know how to use it. I told them failure to train is a cause of action. Who's your boss? So we went to his boss. You know what he did? Called us out in the hallway and says, we'd love to take it, but we just don't know what you're trying to do here. We just don't understand it. And we don't have anybody. And we've had people working on it for 3 weeks, and we can't figure out how to use it. And I said, well, you're a state court. You're an 18th district. You're a state court. The state has a GS8 program. Would you like me to teach you how? And you know what they said? Oh, we can't have you do that because you're a party to it. You're a trustee. You can't teach us because we're the opposing party. We've got to... What the hell? I'm willing to give you the information and show you which forms to fill out. They're your damn forms. It's your GSA program. The federal court will buy the GSAs from the... And you go through the Department of Fiscal Services, and I can tell you the standard forms they're going to use on the computer. And then you don't even know how that works. They're that stupid because no one has walked into that courtroom during their entire 40-year career there and ever used that system. They're too used to just railroading everybody. They never expected somebody to walk up and give them $100 million freaking dollars and we'll take half and you get half. Bonnie could have walked away with a $50 million check. And they could have kept $50 million and funded the county for the next decade. You see what I mean? That's how dumb they are. Even the Bible tells you your only remedy is to go into equity. Over and over and over again. There's no remedy in a state court but a tort claim, and the statutes tell you that. That means you've got to go on the offense and sue the opposing party, or there's no remedy. If you're always playing defense, you're going to lose. The best you can hope for is they don't score a point. If you're playing defense, show me one game. Football, basketball, chess, I don't care. Show me one game that you can play where you can win that game playing defense only. No, you can't. You can't. You will never score a point playing defense only. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen.
Okay, let's take a 15-minute potty break. On that
I
call.
was just having fun. You stopped the whole thing.
Sorry, let's go potty. Hurry up, y'all. Come back in 15 minutes so we can have some more fun.
If we don't know what the question is, and you give me an answer.
I know I should do that.